Thursday, September 3rd, and this is a meeting of the Water Issues Subcommittee. Roll call, please.
Chairperson Rusi?
Here.
Member Gambogi?
Present.
And let the record reflect, Member Fruitworth is absent today.
Thank you. Please read the public comment.
Public comment will be accepted following each agenda item and are limited to 3 minutes. Complete a comment card and return it to the Deputy City Clerk, and speakers will be called in the order received.
Thank you. Before we start, I would just like to recognize some dignitaries that are attending the meeting from the Yavapai Prescott Indian Tribe. We have Mr. Martin James, and we also have Alan Dorward. And I'd like to welcome them both, and I'm honored that they're here to participate in our meeting. Thank you. Also, we have some members, illustrious members from the Seaway Committee, Peter and Tom Sands. So I also would like to welcome you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. First item.
Item 4A, approval of the July 2nd, 2024 Water Issues Subcommittee meeting minutes.
Does anyone have any changes? If not, do I hear a motion?
I move to approve the July minutes.
Second. Since we can't do it we can do it electronically. Nice. Okay.
Passed 2-0. Item B, presentation and discussion regarding the amended 2022 water management policy, current residential and non-residential water budget overview for July 1st, 2024 through August 22nd, 2024.
Good morning, Water Issues Subcommittee. I'm Brian Reese. I'm the Water Resource Environmental Service Manager here at the city. And today, as amended policy 2022 guidelines 11 through 13, the city establishes a semi-annual water budget for residential and non-residential projects. So today we'll be talking about what has happened since our last meeting in terms of projects coming in and water uses that were granted. So the budget is set for a period of July 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2024 for the non-residential and the residential projects. The residential budget water budget for the residential projects was set at 50 acre-feet per year by this committee or by council, excuse me. And the budget set for non-residential projects was 25 acre-feet per year. So I'm going to start off with residential projects that we've seen. The period is from July 1st, 2024 to August 22nd, 2024 is our cutoff period so that we can have materials ready for this meeting. So in that period, there was only one residential project that we saw come through. It was a single-family residential home with an allocation of 0.17 acre-feet. So with that, that was granted administratively due to being below, granted administratively being that it was a residential project and not above the requirements to come to Water Issues Subcommittee. So we have a total remaining budget of 49.83 acre-feet left in our budget for this period. Moving on to non-residential projects, we had 2 non-residential projects come in during the same period with cutoff of August 22nd, 2024. Both of these non-residential projects, the storage facility and the steel building, were below the threshold of 1.5 acre-feet per year, so they were administratively approved. They totaled a total estimated water usage of 0.75 acre-feet and that leaves a total remaining non-residential budget for this period of 24.25 acre-feet per year.
And for clarification for the audience, non-residential, of course, means commercial and multifamily housing projects, even though I think they're a commercial project, those are lumped in with residential projects.
Okay, and then the third item that we report at each meeting for you is projects that are under existing contract. So these projects could be groundwater subdivisions that had at least a preliminary plat before 1998, or they're under some type of contract that the city was obligated to serve water to, and that we uphold. So in this period, ending August 22nd, 2024, there was a total of 9 projects that came through. 8 of these projects were single-family residential homes, so just 1 unit. 1 project was a duplex. So each one of the single-family residential projects we assessed at 0.17 foot. The duplex we utilized the apartment rate of 0.12 acre-feet per year. So that gives 0.24 acre-feet is the assessed value for the duplex. All of these projects, except for one, was in a groundwater subdivision. One of the single-family residents was in an existing contract for Highland Pines. So the total the total water under contract for this period equaled 1.6 acre-feet. And per water policy, this water is not removed from either the non-residential or the residential budget. It is just tracked so that we understand what water we are allocating.
These are all pre-existing contracts that have already been approved, and we have to honor them.
That's correct. That's correct. Okay, with that, this was for informational purposes only at this point in time. No formal action is needed. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer.
Yeah. Mr. Deborde, do you have any comments before we move on?
I have none.
Okay. Alrighty. Thank you, Brian.
Next item is item C, a WSA 24-041, a water service application submitted by Augie on behalf of owner Espire Sports, location APN 102-03598P, comprising 6.97 acres.
And I'd like to thank staff for rearranging our agendas so that the applicants are at the beginning of the meeting, and then they can leave if they want to, so they don't have to sit through the business end of the meeting. Thank you.
All right, so we have a water service application here. This water service agreement application is for a proposed restaurant that will be within the Espire Sports complex within our mall. This is located off of East State Route 69 and Gateway Boulevard. The restaurant is the proposed restaurant's approximately a little over 6,300 square foot. And this restaurant used to be located in the Frontier Village Shopping Center. So, and it has moved to this location. This slide shows a more blow up of the general area and where it is within the mall area, and kind of a schematic to kind of show in green where the restaurant would be located within the Espire Sports Complex. So this project did not require any type of formal planning submittal for it, so per the Land Development Code. So it is coming through the water service agreement process, but doesn't have to go through planning and zoning or any of those other boards at this point in time. The applicant has provided us, the applicant did provide a hand sketch of the restaurant. I did put it into the presentation materials. The owner is here, so if there's any questions about the restaurant and what it will entail, I'm sure he'd be happy to come up and talk about the project a little bit. But The previous usage, we looked at the water resource management model, and the previous usage on an average annual basis was about 2.35 acre feet per year. A demand estimate was prepared by the city based on similar restaurants and within the area and similar square footage. And we came up with a estimated demand for this project of about 1.67 acre feet per year. The difference in those can be contributed to that there's no landscaping proposed with this location, and there was landscaping in the previous location. So let me see if there's any other vital information. I think that's about it. It's a restaurant complex. They're looking to get their water so they can move forward within the Espire. So at this time, kind of wraps up the information I have for you. If you have any other questions.
Okay, and for clarification, this is in the Gateway Mall. Well, it used to be called the Gateway Mall, and it's in the old Sears building. And Mr. Deborde, do you have any questions for Mr. Deweese?
For Brian?
Yes.
No.
Okay, thank you. Would the applicant care to come up to the podium and give us a pitch as to what's going to be happening? If you can talk over the sirens.
Well, good morning. Thank you. We've just started the process. We've completed some of our architectural drawings. Those will be submitted to the city for approval, I believe, next week. And we're hoping for a completion and opening, if not this year, January of next year.
Well, Augie's was a very popular restaurant. Are you going to keep the same? Are you going to be rebranding or just continue on with your process?
We'll continue the brand as it existed before. So we'll be operating daily, serving lunch and dinner, and essentially similar to what we had before, but on a little bit larger scale.
It's a great gathering place, and I would just like to thank you for helping us revitalize our mall. It was just vacant for way too long, and I'm glad to see some progress being made. It won't happen overnight. This is definitely a step in the right direction, and I wish you all the success.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Council.
I got a couple questions.
Oh, yes.
It has nothing to do with the motion that's coming up, but just information for me. What was the rationale for moving from the current Augie's to the mall?
Well, just simply to seek a larger facility that was a little more modern.
And what happens to the old facility?
Well, I vacated that, and I believe it's under lease right now.
So you were renting it at the time?
Yes.
Thank
Yeah.
you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do I hear a motion?
I move to recommend forwarding WSA 24-041 to council for approval or denial.
Second. I think we should just say for approval.
I amend my motion for just approval.
Thank you.
And you can technically make a motion for approval or denial if you want, but it doesn't really give the council much to go off of when you get there, because essentially this board is a recommending body. If you recommend it for approval or denial, it doesn't really help them too much, so. Either one would work, but it's very, you can say better, just choose one.
Well, it helps to clarify what our position was, that we were favorable for this project. Alrighty, thank you.
Passes 2-0.
Alright. Next item, please.
Item D, WSA 24-049, a water service application submitted by Distinctive Homes and Architecture on behalf of owners Dave and Kristen Deborde. location APN 102036061, comprising 1.3 acres.
So we have a water service application here. For this project is approximately about a 3,000 square foot building that will be used for manufacture of concrete blocks and concrete pavers. So the facility is located off of Cirrus Drive over in the airport industrial complex area. Again, this project did not have to go through any formal planning application process, so it's coming straight to Water Issues Subcommittee. A basic site plan. Here's a aerial photo of the area, but a basic site plan was provided by the applicant. And you can see that they're just using the building will be there at the southeast corner of the property with parking. I had talked to both the owner and the owner's representative architectural firm, and they will be doing the minimum landscape requirement per our community development department was a 10-foot strip along Cirrus Lane would be the minimum, and the rest of the area is going to just be utilized for storage of the concrete blocks, equipment, and other operational needs for the project. So, a water service, a demand analysis was completed for this project by Kelly Wise Engineering. They obtained and submitted documentation from the supplier of the equipment that's used to create these blocks that gave estimated usage of water through the operation, and they created a demand analysis for that we reviewed, and it seemed appropriate at about 1.85 acre feet per year for the manufacturing process of this. To that, we went ahead and utilized the area adjacent to Cirrus to estimate another 0.5 acre feet of landscape. The landscape is going to be pretty minimum. There's drainage facilities that front that take water, flood control water through. It's going to be minimal landscape for this area because it has to share that area with those facilities. That gave us a total of 1.9 acre feet per year as the estimated demand for this project. So with that, that kind of concludes the presentation on it. We do have a representative for the proposed project here. So if you have any specific questions for them or anything else from me, I will try to answer for you.
Yes, Mr. Terry?
Hello, I'm Tom Terry with Distinctive Homes and Architecture. Thanks for hearing this. And we're trying to bring some manufacturing to the area, and a small paver plant is used there, and it's all within the building. And it's a metal building, pretty simple and straightforward manufacturing facility. So any questions that you may have, I can answer.
I have a question. Is this like a national firm or just
No,
a local?
it's a local landscaper wanting to make his own pavers that he places on his job. So it's very small.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, it's always welcome to have, we're always happy to see another occupant in our industrial park, and this looks like a wonderful addition to our commercial business community. I do have a question. I was looking at the site plan, and there's a drainage swale, because I expect that he's going to be using his water to mix the aggregate, the sand.
That's correct.
Concrete. And is that drainage swale just going to be for storm runoff? or
That's
is it
right,
gonna
the
be
storm
for-
runoff. Yes.
And where, I couldn't tell where exactly, is it going to go into a detention basin, or is it going to go in, is there a storm sewer in the area?
Right, the civil plans aren't there, but there's a detention basin there, and it all go to the detention basin and go down the natural drainage.
I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't going to be causing any problems. And I am a big fan of the detention basins with rock and sand and water-loving plants. And it's always better than letting it just run off into the neighbor's property. Okay, well, I can't think of any more questions. Mr. Gambogi, do you have any comments?
I have no comments.
Thank you.
Okay. Do I hear a motion?
Miss Chair, I move to recommend forwarding WSA 24-049 to council for approval.
Second.
Passes 2-0.
Congratulations.
Item E, presentation and discussion regarding the 2023 Consumer Confidence Report.
Good morning, Subcommittee. Steve Wolfers, Utilities Manager. Today, I'm proud to bring to you our latest and greatest water quality report, or what is commonly known by EPA as the Consumer Confidence Report, if you look it up in law. This is required to be done every year by the designated users. So we provide these not only to our public, but our consecutive users as well. So this is just a real good time for us to talk about how good we do. And it's a very nice glossy, and we have it professionally done so that it looks like it's professionally done. Let's see. So just we generally choose photographs from around the area. Obviously, this is one of the lakes. I think that's probably Watson. I can't quite see it from here.
But it's not our source of water.
No, it's
I
not
was
our
looking
source
at
of
that, hoping that people don't think
It's
we're
just
drinking
pretty. No.
Watson Lake water.
It's just pretty. So I'll just quickly walk through what is required and how we go about this. This way. So when you first open it, when you have double pages here, so on the bottom of the front page, we talk about how our water treatment process works. Ours is quite simple. We pump it out of the ground with a well. We add chlorine. We have a polishing well or polishing procedure at Airport Well 3 for removal of arsenic. Other than that, we add the chlorine and we send it out to the folks. Very straightforward. 5 wells in Chino Valley area, 3 wells in the airport area that are active right now. And other than doing some strategic blending, we pretty straightforward. Nothing really to have to write home about. The next portion talks about water sampling and the different samples that we take. Over 100 different substances and physical characteristics are measured throughout the year. Those are all on a different time scale. So some are monthly, some are every 3 months, etc. Every month we take 53 coliform samples. Coliforms are indication of some kind of contamination. And so we go to the far ends of the system and take our 53 samples to make sure that we're staying at the proper chlorination level. And lastly, we take 10 arsenic samples per month. These are all done at the wellheads. So we know exactly what's coming out of the ground arsenic-wise. So that's where our blending steps come in, where we're able to operate certain wells in certain ways to make sure that we stay below the required arsenic levels. All right. So our second page, or just as you behind the cover here, this is all stuff EPA makes us put in here. This is all written directly out of the rule. So we don't get to be creative in this area, except we put a nice picture. But otherwise, this is written exactly how the EPA requires it. Essentially, it said if you have one of these contaminants in your water and you have shown that it's there, then you have to write these little blurbs here, vignettes, I guess. of all the different things that go on with these water. Why are we testing for them? They talks a little bit about how all the different contaminants can be introduced into the water source. We have protected water sources, being that we have groundwater, although you just never know. We take incredible caution to make sure we stay right where we need to be. But all of these are the compounds that we're required to keep track of and report on a routine basis. The next page is the meat of our CCR. This is where we tell our citizens what we have found in our water this year. This is not a complete listing or a summary of any of all of our tests. This is just the ones where we have found in our system. In this case, we put ranges in there to show you where things are high and low levels. The MCL, or the maximum contaminant level, is also listed there for reference. These are all the important things that EPA sees as being necessary to report, including at the bottom. The last chart is the unregulated contaminant. Unregulated contaminant monitoring. And this is done every several years. This year they required us to do lithium, to check lithium, and then to check 29 different species of the PFAS. This is their surveillance program. They have us test for things that we don't normally test, and we report on those to see what the prevalence is. So this was the latest one. The next one will be in approximately 4 years when they come up with a new list of ones we get to check out. Of course, PFAS is a big topic. So EPA wants to be sure that we're talking about it as much as we can. Obviously, with the passing of the rule last year and the upcoming regulation that says we have to be in compliance by 2029, we have some more work to be done with PFAS. We're in the process of hiring our consultant to give us some ideas of direction we should go. Because as of right now, the way it stands, we are in compliance with PFAS. As long as we don't run Airport Well 5, we're fine. So we're kind of in that in-between stage. Do we treat or do we not treat? How do we go about that? So we're going to sit down and talk to some professionals and see what ideas they come up with. One of my favorites is always the abbreviations and definitions. This is all that nerd speak that everybody talks about, that sort of stuff. So we tell you exactly what it means. And then lastly, the last one there at the bottom left is the comparisons, which we've spent time on with PFAS. 1 part per trillion is a little tiny thing, but it's where we're measuring now. Lastly, we have some DIY stuff for homeowners, talking about their home PRV, where they can find their shutoff valve, what's the city's and which is their responsibility. These are pretty standard, keeping everybody informed of how to continue doing this. So really just a general discussion on what the water is about and things that you can do to help yourself. And lastly is our little note from our water operations about our source of water, all the different requirements. There's also a number of contact information on there. So this, for those of you, I didn't bring enough for everybody, I'm sorry. But on that back panel here, right where I'm showing, has the website for it. So it's on the website for your use and taking a look at. Otherwise, we have them scattered around the city at the library and City Hall and somewhere in the City Hall. And that's really all we have. That's our CCR for this year. Any questions?
Oh boy, yes. Lots of comments. I think this is going to be a very exciting and lively discussion. We've been eagerly anticipating this since we didn't have an August meeting. So now we're discussing this in September. I'd like Mr. Gambogi, if he has any comments he wants to make initially, or he just wants to jump in whenever he feels like it.
I don't have any comments. I just have some questions from my own education.
Of course, I'm more than happy to answer those.
I thought I remember reading years ago where cities would put fluoride in the water. We don't put fluoride in the water?
The only fluoride we have is naturally occurring from the
Naturally.
wells. We do not add fluoride.
Why did they and why do we not?
Well, that's generally a policy decision based upon, I've worked in 2 different facilities, Phoenix and Mesa, and they both added fluoride. So it's a policy decision, is what your citizens would like to have.
What does fluoride do for you?
Fluoride is supposed to help your teeth and your developing teeth and that sort of stuff. I've never been a proponent of it, but it is, it's part of the business.
Arsenic. I see we have arsenic. Arsenic always sounds terrible. Is that something that just comes naturally too? Or
Yes.
is there a source for it?
Groundwater will be your natural source just from them sitting there in the aquifer.
You had PFAS and PFOS, A and O. What's the difference?
They're subcategories. One is a longer chain and one is a shorter chain. You'd probably be able to talk a little bit better. I'm not that much of an expert, but they're the classification. So PFOS with the FAS is the general classification, and then there's 2 others that are PFOA and PFOS, and those are other subcategories. There's thousands of PFOS.
Now, in one of the earlier tours, water tours, I think you told us it comes from nonstick fry pans.
That would be right.
Brian
Teflon.
Ruiz's permanent press shirt.
This one here too.
Your
Absolutely.
permanent press shirt, but not my permanent. This is not permanent press.
Okay, perfect.
It seems like, and it's coming out of well 5, right?
We have detection in several of our wells, but it's over what is recommended at Airport 5 today. Yes.
Is there anything going on nationally to reduce the amount of PFAS that goes onto our groundwater?
I believe there's been a national movement to ban it. I don't know if it's been, how far that has traversed. I'm focusing mostly on what's going on in water wastewater business, but we see it constantly. Anytime you check and look for it, you're going to find it in whatever medium you happen to look in.
In the brochure, I didn't read it, but it talks about water hardness. It's always been a favorite topic of mine because I don't know if you should or you shouldn't soften your water. What's the argument for or against it?
Against softening? Or for softening? Most people like the taste of soft water better, especially folks who come out from east where all the water is soft already. We have to manually do that. So I think the fixtures last a little longer when it's softened, but it is an additional step that takes place on the homeowner's shoulders that they have to maintain that and respect that it's a chemical process, that, you know, it's not magic. You have to let it do its thing and keep it moving, keep it going. Otherwise, it will fail like everything else.
Is there any downside to it?
Well, it changes your corrosivity of your water. So if you can certainly change that if you heat it, softened water. There are concerns with that. But I don't think there's anything overly negative.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I just would like to respectfully make some comments. I want to thank you. This water quality report, very helpful information in it. I think the main thing on the first paragraph is to note it says during 2023, water from the city's system met all applicable federal and state drinking water health standards. So that pretty much sums it up and gives me great peace of mind. And it also has some statistics that I'd like to emphasize. That in 2023, Prescott pumped 7,223 acre-feet of water from the wells and delivered it to the city of Prescott. 26,000 564 service connections. We have 562 miles of pipeline, 37 remote booster pump stations, because we live in a hilly area, and 26 water storage tanks. So that is a pretty sophisticated system. It's kind of similar to your heart and your circulatory system in your body. That's basically what, and we have redundancy in this system so that we can be consistent and reliable in serving our water to our customers, because that's what people expect. Consistency and reliability, especially businesses that are coming to our community. They want to make sure that they have an adequate supply of water and that it is not going to be turned off on a regular basis. And I would just like to also say that this isn't a cheap system. If we're going to continue to maintain our infrastructure to keep up with our growth, I think right now water is a great deal for what we get here in the city of Prescott, but going forward, I think we have to be realistic. Costs go up, and in order to maintain our sterling water delivery system, we might have to look at some future water rate increases. We just did some recently, but we have to be realistic. And also I'd like to, I appreciate the comments about the PRV valve, the pressure regulatory valve. I didn't know about those. And my house is 10 years old. I'm certainly going to have the plumber check it out to make sure that it's functioning. And that looks like it's something that the homeowners should consider, when they're looking at buying a new home or, well, not a new home, but purchasing a home that's been around for a while. They might take a look at that.
I believe per code it's required for. I believe per code it's required for any new builds.
Good.
So everybody should have one. That's usually our number one complaint is pressure, and it happens to be that the PRV, their pressure relieving valve, on their side has failed.
Yeah. So if you're in an older neighborhood and your water pressure isn't that good, have it checked out. Have that pressure regulatory valve checked out. I assume this is going to be posted online.
It already is, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And another thing, I've noticed that other communities, they take out a full-page newspaper ad, and instead of just focusing on they focus on the results of all 100 contaminants that are tested. And I was just wondering if maybe that's something it's just kind of a chart, kind of a generic chart that everyone uses, other communities, other water districts. Is that something that we might consider publishing in the Courier for nerds like me who like to read the Courier from page to page? And
I would take any direction that you feel fit. This is how, and I hate to say this is how we've always done it, but this is how we've always done it.
Yeah, and to let the community know that we are testing for 100 contaminants, and to just put their mind at rest. I mean, we say, hey, they're all okay, but it'd be good to have the data and the facts, printed right there for people
Certainly.
to peruse. And then, a big thing that we test for is coliform, which is commonly known as E. coli, which is a nice way to say fecal material in our water. And it is a big carrier of disease, mostly hepatitis. And there have been, not in this community in our water system, but in other water systems, and especially wells that are too close to the septic systems, there will be hepatitis outbreaks, like in mobile home parks and that. So the community needs to know that we test and monitor these for something like obvious, like E. coli. My question is, we've heard of cases of protozoas being ingested down in Phoenix and attacking the brain. Do we test for protozoas in our water?
It is not required in our groundwater system. Protozoas such as those are usually in surface water systems, open ponds, lakes, and streams. That's where they would fall under that sort of testing. The way that we confirm that we don't have chloroforms or coliforms is by making sure that our chlorine concentration is at least 0.2 parts per million at the tap.
And that would take care of the protozoas?
Protozoas, viruses, bacteria, the other ones you're speaking of. That's correct.
Okay. All right. Well, that's, and then just allow me to drill down on our chart. Starting with arsenic, it looks like the MCL is 10, the highest level was 10, and our range was 2.7 to 10. It sounds like we're kind of on the high end there.
We want at well 3 at the airport. That's our only arsenic system that we polish for arsenic. That one had a failure, so that's where we got the 10 from AP3.
So that was tested at the well.
Correct.
Not
It's
at,
tested at the EPA.
not at
or the well.
people's water taps.
That is correct.
Because by the time it gets to my house, it's been mitigated
thoroughly
by
mixed.
blending.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I just wanted to clear that up for people. And then Mr. Gambogi asked the question about fluoride. I know that fluoride's very controversial. In the past, people have been anti-fluoride. And, it's in the water naturally. And, so I feel that, that takes care of any problems we might have with our teeth, because it does, data does prove that it helps with better teeth, fewer cavities. And then my other question, you mentioned we just started testing for lithium.
We tested this one time for lithium.
Because of the federal requirements.
That's correct.
Yeah. And it was, that's another one, the highest, the PQL is 9, our highest level is 16.1, and the range was non-detect to 16.1.
Yeah, we took samples at each one of the wells as required by the rule. So some we had some non-detect and some we had at the 16 level. There's no maximum contaminant level. That's what this is for, is to find out the prevalence of these contaminants before they make the next step in rulemaking. So lithium might be the next one that they decide to regulate. We did this with arsenic. We've done this with PFAS. All of the latest and greatest contaminants that we've regulated have started on this unregulated contaminant rule.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that's pretty much all of my comments. I see we have some people here from CWAG with their papers, and I welcome them to come to the podium and speak. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Peter Krupnik, an environmental chemist, work with the Citizens Water Advisory Group in town. Couple comments, if I may. I guess first is, you said we've taken AP3 out of service due to the PFOA compounds. How does that affect our total available water? Can you clarify what percentage?
Certainly.
What?
We actually took AP5 out. AP3 has arsenic, which we have the arsenic treatment. We have enough redundancy right now to we don't have any problems making production. We just went through our high levels. Summer, our demand, we had no reason to turn on AP5. We rotate our wells so that they're not all on all the time, obviously. So we're blending and going through that process, making sure that we always have enough demand. But yeah, AP5 at this point has no effect on us.
Okay, just want to make sure. With regard to the PFAS, PFOA compounds, as you alluded to, there are thousands of those. Every day they discover another fluoride-based organic compound. So we live in a time of a whole new environmental disaster approaching us. In that vein, I got two sort of comments. We recharge some of our wastewater at the plants over near the airport. So we're putting water back into the aquifer. Are we monitoring that water routinely to make sure we're not recontaminating the sources?
At this time, there is no rule that would require us to do that, so we haven't taken that step. We've done some preliminary tests with the state and in some of their sampling projects, which certainly indicate that there's PFAS within the wastewater. We've taken the thought that we should treat it at the wellhead instead of treating at the wastewater plant, although that may not be a choice here for very long. EPA is considering regulating what happens at a wastewater plant versus PFAS.
Other comment, if you read the New York Times or other nationwide newspapers, there's a whole big discussion this weekend about the residual that's taken out of the wastewater containing PFAS. That material very often is used as fertilizer and spread on our fields and then ends up in our food supply. This is a whole new thing.
I saw that too on the front page of the New York Times. It was the sludge, sewer sludge being sold to the farms.
Yeah. Are we analyzing our sludge? I don't know where our sludge goes. What is it used for?
Our sludge goes to the landfill. It's used in part of the landfill process. We have done some sampling of our biosolids, which is what we call it instead of saying sludge. You know, it kind of has a prettier ring to it. But our biosolids have been tested through the testing protocol with ADEQ, and we have found PFAS levels in that.
Yeah. And I know there's PFAS. Prescott Valley has analyzed their wastewater and found some. I don't recall what we have found, but it's everywhere. I don't know what we're going to go through with this for the future. Mankind is slowly killing itself. Mm-hmm. That's the observation.
Well, I agree with the big picture here, and we're paying the price for all the chemicals that have been developed. I mean, there's like 10,000 forever chemicals, that, we just test for a few, and that if a few are there, they're like, I call them the sentinel chemicals. And if they're there, most of the other ones are probably there. But the main thing is we've recognized it. We're moving forward to do something about it. And if we can filter out the sentinel chemicals, then that means we're filtering out all the other 10,000 chemicals. But I think there's going to have to be a major shift in just by the public, an outcry. Stop using Teflon, stop using plastics that are slowly poisoning us. And, there is a huge spike in cancers among young people that have been unheard of in their 20s and 30s, getting breast cancers, colon cancers. And this is something that's I find very alarming. But we're testing our water, and people are welcome. If they want to put on additional filtering systems, they're certainly welcome to do that. But I would just like to say my mother-in-law moved here with her family in 1961, drank Prescott water every day, and she just passed away at the age of 102 and a half from old age, I guess. So, Mr. Sands, do you have any comments to make?
Just to end, I'd like to thank Councilmember Rusing for being up to speed on this. Thank you for your comments.
And thank you for CWAG for all the hard work that they do.
Hi, thank you. My name's Tom Sands. I'm a retired water resource engineer and also a member of CWAG's Board of Directors. question regarding the water service application for distinctive homes. I think that the gentleman has left, but maybe Brian can comment. I think I heard that they make pavers, and I believe making pavers requires water. But I didn't see in the breakdown of the water use, it said indoor water and then landscaping. I didn't see industrial use or whatever you might call making pavers. So I kind of wondered, are they really making pavers there? And if they are, is that included in that 1.9 acre feet per year? But you know, I got calculating sitting here, 1.9 acre feet times 325,000 gallons per acre foot comes out to be about 600,000 gallons a year. And if you divide that by 50 weeks of work and 5 days a week, it comes out to be about 2,400 gallons per day. So I may have answered my own question.
Yeah.
2,400 gallons, nobody's drinking that much water per day, nor flushing toilets that many times a day. So it probably is included in there?
It is definitely included in there. Exactly. Yeah. It's nearly all of the use of the facility. And that breakdown is correct.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to thank you for bringing that up, because the last thing we want to do is attract high water users to the area. And we just got back from spending a couple of days in Phoenix at the Arizona League of Cities and Towns. And one of the things they talked about in one of the seminars were they're attracting these data centers that store data for like the cloud. And they used massive amounts of water for cooling. And they also use massive amounts of power. So we need to be aware of those centers, because someday they may want to come up here. And that's why I'm going to be advocating for an environmental element in our water policy to address high water users and also users that might contaminate the water when they discharge water into our sewer or runoff. But it's something I'm glad I did the calculations too, and it came out to about the paver manufacturer, he'll be using water for about 10 or 11 homes here in Prescott, which I think he produces a product, provides a job, and so I think that's a good trade-off. And I don't think that he's going to be dumping any toxic chemicals like solvents or anything into our sewer system. But that's another thing on our water service application. I'd like to see it modified and ask the question, what chemicals are you using, solvents, lithium, whatever, and will they be dumped into our sewer system or into the runoff? Because that's a very important question that we should have been asking all of our applicants. Anyway, any more comments, Tom?
Yeah, a couple more. Regarding the issue about the landfill and the article in the New York Times, which I also saw that. Just a quick question: are the landfills lined, or are they not? I mean, are they concrete lined or rubber liner lined, or will that PFAS that's in the sludge, will that drain down into the groundwater? So the question is, are the landfills lined?
I can't answer that question. Do you know, Brian? No, I don't. EPA right now is still trying to figure out what to do with those residuals.
Yeah.
Not only biosolids, but also the media that is used to remove PFAS. We're really lobbying to try not to be a toxic waste creator, which is what they essentially want to make us. So we really need to be sure that we know those questions and those answers.
Sure.
We just, at this point, we're still really early in the process.
Right. Oh, yeah, and I certainly understand that. And this problem is not just in Prescott.
Oh, I know
it is
that.
all across the
Yes, it
United
is.
States and all around the world.
Yes.
It's being addressed. And like my old chemistry professor said in college, he said, this was back in the 70s when air pollution was a concern. He said, technology got us into this situation, and technology will get us out of the situation. So we just need to be patient and let the universities come up with solutions for these.
Correct, yes, that's what we're hoping for.
Yeah, and speaking
All
of,
right, and then just a couple of quick comments. Regarding fluoride, a couple other thoughts about fluoride. I know it's controversial, and I'm not an expert on it, but I do know that if you really want the fluoride in your water, or for your teeth, if you look at your toothpaste tube, it'll say with fluoride. I think the term is, I think stannous fluoride is the actual
Stannous fluoride.
version of the fluoride, but that's been available in toothpaste for years and years and years, and that really reduced cavities. But some cities just like that extra protection and add fluoride to their water. And I was not aware that Kathy said that we had adequate fluoride in this city here, which is great. Okay, and the last comment was on soft water that Mr. Deborde asked about. The process of softening the water, you add salt, you have salt, and then it does an ion exchange with the calcium in the water. It puts sodium in the water, takes calcium out. Now the calcium is the stuff that deposits on your glasses and your dishwasher, your shower doors, your fixtures, and so forth. So it pulls it out, and it's a marvelous process. And but the downside the only downside I'm aware of is that if you happen to be on a low sodium diet, and I think that has to do maybe with some health issues, that people are on low sodium diets, then they're told to not drink the soft water, and they have to drink like bottled water or whatever. But if homes are dual plumbed for soft water, there's usually one tap, usually like the kitchen faucet on the cold water side will be non-soft water. So those people with low sodium diets can still have soft water in their homes as long as they drink the water from the cold water side of their tap. That's all I had. Thank you.
yeah. Yeah, thank you. I've heard of installations of soft water treatment where the drinking water is exempt. They don't soften the drinking water, but the shower water, so that things lather up and, and the appliances benefit, but not the drinking water. And as far as fluoride, I know that dentists they have fluoride treatments when it mostly for kids, when they are young and their teeth are developing, they'll do fluoride treatments. But any more comments?
No, ma'am, thank you.
Okay. All right, Mr. Deborde, any thoughts?
I have no thoughts.
Okay. All righty.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Steve. All right.
Next item F, presentation and discussion regarding recommended study of landscape, water use, and wastewater return flow.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, Leslie.
Good morning, Subcommittee. I was thinking of the commission because that's what I'm going to be talking about a little bit today. I hope you're doing well after a nice holiday weekend. Leslie Grazer, Water Resource Project Manager. Looking at your memo, I was just going to remind you, our last meeting, we talked about a commission. So this was the mayor's ad hoc for water policy review and monitoring, the commission. You looked at the long-term water management plan that they recommended. So we're doing a continuation today of another recommendation that they brought forward, and that you can kind of see into my world some of the work that I do and look for your feedback on what you think about this. So this is, as I mentioned, commission recommendation number 3. And we are just going to go through some basic analysis. I'm going to run through these slides really quick. You had this PowerPoint already, so I won't dwell on it too long. What we're going to do is do a quick background for where this came from, a review of the conditions that feed into this discussion, and then a summary of what we would like to recommend to you and see what you think about it. So right off the bat, this is the recommendation number 3. I highlighted kind of the key parts there. So they wanted to investigate the requirements to adequately monitor landscape water use and also wastewater return flows. They noted that within the policy, the previous one, not the amended one, that it spoke to a 75% return flow requirement. And there was lots of discussions around that with the group. They also noted it was in code. So when you amended the policy, the amended 2022 policy, the 75% was taken out of those guidelines, but it still resides within your code. They wanted it to apply to all water customers, and when we look at the code, you'll see why. They wanted a report to council to address the findings, requirements for resources and staffing, and the cost to implement monitoring procedures on landscape use. So we'll move ahead. So that's one piece of your background. Here's the second piece. So this is the actual code. It's 2-1-8, and it's for provisions to receive water outside of city limits. You'll see that item number B says, talks about return flows and requiring 75% return flow. And the crux of the issue was that we went around several times, probably many, many times, is that we know that our houses aren't metered for their wastewater return. So how do you determine 75%? So this kind of was a bubbling, rolling, back and forth discussion in the group. And we knew it was valuable. It was valued by your commission at the time. And so that's why it rolled into a recommendation for some more discussion and work. So these are the slides I'm going to take you through really quick for the sake of time. What I did was I wanted to look across the service area. As you noted in the code, it speaks to those connecting that are outside city limits. The commission was like, but what about those inside city limits? So let's just look at the whole service area. So your left side is always going to be your key map. The grayish blue, whatever that is, outline is the service area. So it shows that we go up into Chino. And then I'll just pick some areas throughout that service area so you can get a feel for what we're seeing out there. The middle picture is just aerial photography so we can see what looks green out there. And, there's not a whole lot of green out there. Up the very top, you can see the town's aquatic center ball fields. Moving down, you can see a little bit of the high school has some ball field area. Neighboring them is the FAA, Future Farmers of America. They have some activities out there and some other green, that's really pronounced on aerial photography. The last one on the right is just, what does it look like meter-wise out there? The city has about 4 irrigation meters out there. So although the city serves quite a bit of water out there, when we look at how our metering is identified within our billing database, just 4 of those are those for irrigation purposes. And you don't see a whole mess of green near them. Moving along down as north to south, we're kind of getting to the middle portion of the service area. And I called out in particular an area in orange. And so that is your Pioneer Park area, Embry-Riddle. So if we slide down to the lower right-hand side, you can see the Pioneer Park ball fields. You can see the Embry-Riddle ball fields. And to the far right, you can see a little bit of Heritage Park has green there. Zooming in a little bit on what does it look like on a residential piece. The yellow, I picked up on Granite Dells Estates. We could have easily looked at Deep Well or any of them, but this one's been around a little bit longer and we see a little bit more. So you can see, of course, this is predominantly residential. There's no big ball fields yet, but there are a whole lot of irrigation meters. And so there's strips, common areas, right-of-ways that are being irrigated. But here again, you look at across your service area, even as they're just getting started, it's not big green areas. And of course, we've always highly recommended native plant use, and it's required actually by the state and the rights of way. So we'll keep moving for the sake of time. Let's look a little bit more at the heart of Prescott. So here you don't see a whole lot pop except for the upper right is the Prescott Lakes Golf Course, and the lower left is Hacienda or Capitol Canyon. This is pretty far out, so it's hard to get a handle on what's going on. But you can see we should have done this, but we didn't. Compare it to maybe a Scottsdale area and see how much more green pops in that area of the state.
Leslie, let me interrupt you for a minute. On
Yes,
the
ma'am.
golf courses like Hacienda and the city's municipal course isn't reclaimed sewer water used
It
on
is.
those
Yeah, and that
courses.
plays into our discussion too
Yeah.
today is when we have a commission ask for certain work to be done, there's a lot of pieces, and I'll run you through all of them, all the things that we're considering, because that's a very good point. It's on, we'll get to there too. Okay, so because we didn't see a whole lot, let's zoom in tighter and see what we start to notice. So looking from top to bottom, you can see the football field at the high school and their practice fields and their baseball field, and then another practice baseball field. These are the things, just like you mentioned, these are the things we want to pick up on. We know that's AstroTurf at the high school now. They pulled all the grass out and put in artificial turf. So we have to consider these things as when we start trying to look at, well, is somebody irrigating too much? Well, no, they're not, because it's not turf and they're not relying on water supplies. Moving down, once we get past the high school bit, you'll see the YMCA, and so they have an outdoor area, green area for the preschool, for the public to use. I think that has open access. Whether you're a member or not, you can get in there and take a jog around the track or use the grassy area with your kiddo to learn t-ball or whatever. Looking over to the right a little bit more, you can see the church and the retirement community over there. So they have some green spaces. So now you start talking quality of life a little bit. And do we want to have green spaces for our high schoolers, middle schoolers, preschoolers, all the way through our community overall? To have places to play? Can we be careful on how we irrigate? Certainly. Can we cut some warning tracks, things like that pull some of that turf away? Great. In our retirement communities, do we want to have outdoor spaces where they can sit under a tree or have some grass? We have to be thoughtful about, are we going down to zero turf, or is there playable areas that should be maintained? So I'll get off the little soapbox there, but I just wanted to say that we need to know these things. And then I pulled the orange area. So that starts, so we start lower left. That's going to be your Mile High Middle track field, football field, sports area. The courthouse square is, of course, popping green, very easily to see. You can go, keep kind of moving to the east. You'll see Ken Lindley, a common ballpark and play area for folks. You can see Yavapai College start to show they have their ball fields for their sports teams as well, just like Embry-Riddle. And then far right is going to be the VA cemetery. So I think I've kind of run you through, top to bottom. That's kind of what it looks like out there, but we don't have, what would seem too much turf, but it doesn't mean we can't be careful in irrigation. Doesn't mean we can't cut back in certain areas. So we're considering these things as part of the study. So I wanted to bring from the water resource management model a quick look, just like I did in Chino. We popped and we saw, 4 irrigation meters up there. We looked at Grand Dells Estates and we had a certain number of irrigation meters there. If you look across the board, the service area, ignore the pink and the yellow and the green, just look at the bright blue. We have 461 meters overall out there for irrigation. Okay, so there was discussion about, did the commission want to look at residential irrigation? And here again, we don't typically, I don't think we have, there might be a few. Somebody who has an irrigation meter associated with their home, but predominantly I would say no, if zero. We use aerial imagery. So this exercise was done with 2019 aerial imagery. If you use the certain kind, you can pick up differences between artificial turf and vegetation. So they were dialing this in a little bit more. They determined at that time there wasn't a lot of irrigation grass outside of the golf courses and the parks in this area. When they dialed it in a little bit more, they said, well, let's put a cap on this and say, okay, if we find something over 0.75, we'd like to know. That would be our bottom baseline and go up. And what they determined was they saw quite a few residential at the time. So I think the leadership at Public Works decided we're not getting in people's backyards. What we have available for our community is a rebate program. So when that turf needs to be dialed down a little bit because they don't need it, or they are feeling the impacts of water bill costs, they will bring that down. So it's not that we don't see this as part of the study. We just, as I said, when I'm walking you around the whole picture, trying to learn what we know out there about our community. What's also important to know is because that was a twofold tasking that we received from the commission, they wanted to look at watering landscapes, but they also wanted to know return flows. And I'll just kind of bump back us up to the top. In Chino Valley, we don't get return flows. And then similarly, this map is showing our service area that doesn't include Chino. We have unsewered areas, so we have plenty of areas that are not contributing to return flows. So those have to be considered in this discussion or work that was provided to staff to do. Moving on, quick piece of the puzzle too is looking at does a pointer work? No. Whoa, does something cool, but I don't. Oh, does it actually? Oh, wish was granted. Oh man, how many times have I been here? I'm like, wouldn't it be great to have a pointer? Oh man, high five to IT. Okay.
This is a super pointer.
I'm going to have to play with this a while. Okay, anyways. All right, back to work. Okay, got it right in there. This is the airstrip right here, okay? And then right in this circle is Deepwell Ranch. I tried to pull them out a little bit. This is the AED North. There's the Granite Dells Estates. Oh, you got to get good at this. Okay, wait, I get it. There we go. You got to get your arm up. And this is AED, and use the microphone at the same time. Wow, this is like chewing bubble gum. Don't throw that into. So we're looking at the Prop 400 areas. So these were areas that are supposed to go to permanent recharge, and they kind of fall into this discussion as well. We won't dig into it today, but those have some characteristics of any water that's returned to the city has to go to permanent recharge and not into our long-term storage account for new development or for negotiations or whatever. So summary of conditions, I don't think I probably need to read these all to you because I showed them all to you in pictures and you have your PowerPoint. So that's what we're looking at. Flipping quickly to the wastewater side, the commission said, well, we want to know about return flows. I wonder if we can zoom this little round thing. Probably not, but let's start down here. So this is showing the total potable customer deliveries. So we sent out in 2020 6,767 acre feet. And then over here, I think that says what, 4,284 or something about that was what came back in metered. So then you do the math. And in 2020, using those numbers, you get about 63% return flow. And so we can see even with the numbers we have now, we can't achieve that. Well, it's not that we can't achieve it. We just aren't there at a 75% return flow. So that aids into the discussion some more. And then, of course, you don't want to look at 1 year. You want to look at, am I botching up confusing the system? We looked at just averaging, so about 70%. And this work that I'm showing you now is part of your decision in order of assured water supply. You know, we had to run those numbers anyways. We do have numbers to 2020, but we're working on those a little bit more. So, sorry, to 2022. So I wanted to show you something that we didn't consider provisional today. We do have more numbers that we can share though. So moving on, that was the other piece. Going back to code, I think I hit on the topic here, 75%, what we can do. You know, we've rolled into the Department of Water Resources saying we have 65% return flow because we wanted to be conservative in that effort. And so where are we at? So what's highlighted in yellow here came right from the commission and themselves. And this is the work we've done. So we just bullet pointed, you know, what things we've been able to look at, what's been investigated, and then we have a to be completed. So, you know, you have to come up with findings and requirements for what you're going to do, the resources for it, and a cost of implementation. So after looking at all those things, this will look familiar to you from last time. So what we'd like to propose as staff for the commission and of course for the council, because the council adopted that we would put together a study on wastewater return flows with that landscape component. we started looking at the long-term management plan, and I just circled all the pieces that we were seeing some overlap, benefit, what can talk to what. And I'll leave you with that today, as we would propose, and we'll seek your thoughts. Independently, you can send things to our director or Brian, or what you feel on this one. Tell me today. We think we can roll this into a long-term management plan and have a higher achievement of outcome on this than having it be a little postage stamp standalone product. And that's the end of my presentation today. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Leslie. I really appreciate this and the work that you're spearheading here, because this is a very important goal that we must reach. And I just like to comment that here in Central Prescott, we have a high, I don't call it artesian wells. We have a lot of pretty high water table, and a lot of our old elms and cottonwoods take advantage of it. So that attributes, they're not being irrigated, and that attributes to the green downtown. But I'd also like to say, you made a good point. We need to balance our quality of life with our trees and plants, because they're very important to us. And, we are experiencing climate change, and we're hotter and we're drier. We're averaging 2 degrees hotter, and the projections are now we're going to go up another 4 degrees in the future. So I think it's in order to keep our heat levels down and not become a heat island, we need to have some green spaces. So we need to definitely have a balance. But I'm not for ornamental grass, that's for sure. That's an area that we can work on. But having some grass like at the courthouse, that's kind of the community lawn, I think prevents people from everyone having their own individual little lawn. We can all come down and enjoy the grass at the courthouse plaza. So just a few comments. Mr. Gambogi, do you have any comments?
I got a couple, and they're just extemporaneous. Much like when we were talking about PFAS, I have a great fear that this becomes a Flint, Michigan concern, and I think there's an element of education. And maybe CWAG can help with this. What's a list of things we can do not to create more PFAS? Like, I'm reading this book, Good Energy. It's about trying to be healthy. And, of course, it doesn't want you to go to fast food restaurants. And I didn't realize the wrappers on the burgers and the fast food restaurants produce PFAS. So that's a win-win for me. I don't go there, eat there, and I don't create more PFAS. But, we have a number of incentives to do things in the city to save water. And I remember, I don't know, maybe a half year ago, driving up Senator Highway in my truck, and I came to a halt. I saw something I hadn't seen in 10 years or 11 years, and that was sod. But somebody was sodding their front yard on Senator Highway. Since I'm in meetings, I know about the incentives, but I wonder if everybody know about the incentives. When I did door-to-door, I saw a lot of yards with grass front yards. Now, I don't know if that's impactful, but I'd also like us to maybe dedicate a little more effort on education, so people can understand how they can contribute. Like, when I first moved in, before I studied anything about water, so I'm guilty. My wife, having moved in from Illinois, where you just take a shovel and dig a hole, had me pickaxe holes for 3.5 hours per tree to put in fruit trees. So I'm guilty. But then what I did is I routed every downspout off the roof into a bowl where the tree is to save water. I think we would do well to make an emphasis on education and emphasize the incentives we have for people not to put in sod lawns.
I totally agree. I think in my career here at the city and other places, you're trying to use the water as effectively as possible. We have peoples who have lived here in this area for millennia that know how to route surface water supplies, how to use the waters carefully. So education is always key. Just for fun, to counter a little bit, I had a day where I was driving down Senator Highway and somebody was putting in artificial turf, and I was just like, So we have a little bit of kind of back and forth there, and the education, I can emphasize that a little bit more in this packet of information that we presented today. I think I had that on the on this slide here because it plays into our gallons per capita per day. There should be some communication outreach. This is so tiny, it's hard for me to read, but as I like to say, water conservation is always part of the discussion in water management.
Yeah,
and we can get that out. So I hope that helps.
Yeah. And I'd like to emphasize that here in Prescott, our water conservation program is very robust. It's because people are educated, and it's all voluntary. And we don't use the stick approach, we use the carrot approach. And we have rebates, and we have a tiered water billing system. So if you conserve water, you save money. And if you waste water, it's going to hit you in the pocketbook. And plus, we have a bunch of retirees here who came from other places where they got tired of shoveling a lot of snow and mowing a lot of grass. So they enjoy their low water, low maintenance landscape.
True.
Shoveling snow, they're still shoveling a little snow, but not that much.
It melts pretty quick around here.
It melts
Just wait.
quick, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, do we have some comments from our audience?
Or Mr. Krupnik, Dr. Krupnik
Peter
starts.
Krupnik, just a quick comment. I'm racking my brain, but 6-7 years ago, Recreation Services changed all the auto meters and, for all the ball fields in the city. And I'm just wondering if that's a data point to look what that saved us and what that did for us.
Absolutely, and I feel bad I didn't preface my whole talk that Dr. Krupnik was part of our commission, and so this is familiar to him. So that was one that I wanted to catch before I left the mic. And then two, to your point, I was going to mention we talk a lot to our rec services department, and we know we've helped accomplish things that may not have been able to be accomplished with general fund monies by using water monies. So when they are able to drop water use in certain areas, when we're in communication, they're like, yeah, if we redo that pocket park or if we do that intersection area, then we help find ways to make it beautiful, keep some vegetation that's native there, but remove things that shouldn't be there. So to your point, yes, there has been work. In a recent communication, they felt the ballparks, most of the ballparks that the city owns, they feel they're in pretty good shape because we've worked with them. I came on board at the city in 2009. And I've seen the wave after wave of when we kind of tighten things down and do a little bit better. So what they gave back for feedback is that they felt the golf course could have another round. So we've already done one round at the golf course of like reducing turf around the putting green area, reducing it around the clubhouse itself. There might be opportunity to do some more. So what you mentioned, yes, that's an opportunity, might be an opportunity again, and then there's some other ones we can consider through, and then explain those through educational pieces, as Mr. Gambogi has mentioned.
To Councilmember Roosing's comment, in our driving around town, CWAG has been looking at this, and there are a few people out there who ignore all our recommendations and water like hell. I think we need to have some sticks.
Okay, any more comments? Is that all for this topic?
Excellent job. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. Okay, next agenda item.
General announcements from staff?
There's one general announcement.
Okay.
Back to the mic. There's one general announcement. Thank you for the slide. So I think I can read this. It might be easier for me to read on my paper. So the Bureau of Reclamation had a water management planning grant under their Water Conservation Field Services program. The objective is to provide an opportunity to document data on current water supply and demand, prepare a forecast for future water demands, identify water conservation goals, and determine water conservation measures. And the eligible activities include a water management plan and a water conservation plan. So this popped up in our feeds at a staff level, and we looked at it and we thought, oh gosh, that sounds like what we kind of want to be working on some more. So the city did filed an application June 3rd of this year. The grant was selected for award August 14th, and the issuance, they program that kind of towards right when they enter into their new fiscal year in October. So November, December, we should have that secured for the city. So it's a fairly small grant. It's only $40K, but it requires a match that we already put in the budgeting for FY25. So another $40K. So we have $80,000 to do the best job we can on this and make it the pieces, implementations important, have ongoing life versus hitting a shelf. And that's, I guess, our good news for today.
You know, that is really good news because going forward, I think that it's important that Prescott takes the lead because we do need a long-term water management plan, and hopefully that will someday become a regional long-term water management plan because we all have the same straw in the same aquifer.
Right. So I think we do a good job all the way around. The commission, that was one of their recommendations. We talked about that last time here. You know that your strategic planning has it in there and also your general plan. So you kind of have that three-legged stool working, and we probably have it in a couple more pockets somewhere if we have a look in our jackets for where we're trying to make that linkage, because once you have that, it's stronger and it moves up the chain for getting the work done. But now you have a little more money to work.
Yeah, thank you. Brian?
So she's not going to say it, so I just want to say the person who took the lead on finding and digging out this grant opportunity took the lead in putting it together, writing it up, and took the lead in all the other legwork that got us the grant was Leslie. So I just wanted to say thank you to her.
Thank you.
She has done that for the city. Our initial budget was $40,000. We said we're going to step into the long-term water management plan as we were doing this, as Leslie said, coalescing the general plan and the strategic council's plans are all coming together for this long-term water management plan. That was going to be our initial budget, and now we have double our initial budget available to us. So we're excited about it and look forward to moving forward and giving you updates as we go along.
And also, speaking of regional water issues, isn't there a meeting this week at the Prescott Valley Library? I
Yes,
didn't
ma'am.
bring my notes. Maybe you could refresh and let the public know.
State of Arizona, so the Department of Water Resources, is having more of like a community meeting. So we do have what's called a GUAC, or a Governor's Groundwater Users
Yes.
Advisory Council, but it's not that. So you're not going to have your GUAC seated and presiding over a meeting. But the state is coming up, ADWR.
It's the AMA, right?
Right, it's going to be focused on the AMA. So, and there has a virtual link too. So if you can't be there in person, you can join virtually.
Yeah, and do you remember, it's sometime in the afternoon, Crystal Room, Prescott Valley.
I
Do you
think
remember
it's
the
on the
date?
5th, and it's at 1 o'clock. But I see somebody pulling. No,
Is it Thursday? Is that a Thursday?
Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's
Okay,
Thursday.
I think it's
1
1 to
o'clock this week.
3.
Yes, ma'am.
Third floor of the
You're right.
Prescott Valley. Yeah, so be there or be square. Okay, any other comments? One
I have
more?
one more comment.
Okay, good. Let's keep going.
Not to belabor a point, but once upon a time, around the time the earth cooled, I took my first assignment and moved from Illinois to New Mexico. And I was in shock. I bought a house with a rock front yard. And I remember saying to the real estate agent, I got to get out there and put grass in because I come from the land of grass. And she said, you're going to be doing a lot of traveling. Just give it some time. And about 6 months later, the rock looked pretty good. We have a policy with developers to use natural species. But what I saw in a lot of developments is in the backyard, there'll be ponds, there'll be species that use water that are not natural species. And that kind of further emphasizes my emphasis on education. Because, okay, you bought a new house. We have an incentive for taking out grass and putting sod down. But I don't know that we have an incentive for not putting non-native species in the first place. So that might be another consideration. Thank you.
Mr. Sands?
Just a couple of quick comments regarding the artificial turf that we've talked about. I read somewhere recently that artificial turf, unfortunately, is loaded with PFAS. So as it rains, it may leach into the groundwater. So it's just another one of the challenges that the entire country and world has to deal with. So the other comment was, I want to say congratulations on your grant. That's just awesome. I think I can speak for CWAG to say that we've seen the need for a water resource plan for some time, so that's really great news. In fact, I think one of the comments was that CWAG has a lot of retirees that have water resource backgrounds who, if Gary Beverly were here, he would want me to say that CWAG would be pleased to work with you all and help review drafts and give you comments and suggestions for you to do with as you please. And from my personal standpoint, I was the Salt River Project's chief author on their initial long-range water resource plan about 20 years ago. So I have some personal experience there. And then I also worked with the 10 valley cities down in the valley on different pieces of their water resource plan, mainly on the water supply side. So I'd be happy to review anything you want or any way I can be of help. I think Prescott's really doing the right thing, and I think that excited about it. So congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Sands. And I just like to comment, I'm so thrilled to see how the relationship has evolved between City Council and CWAG. It's you guys are collaborating with us, and we're collaborating with you, and it's all for what's best for the city of Prescott and the surrounding area. So we really appreciate it. Thanks for hanging in there with us. Okay, if there's nothing else, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.